This is the Saturday Morning Serial Podcast with your host, Amanda Ann. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Saturday Morning Serial. I'm Amanda Ann, and today is so exciting. We are going to be talking about everything and all things Scream, and just covering movies 1 through 5. I personally have not seen the 5th movie yet, but today I will be having my buddy Kevin Green back on the podcast, and Kevin is a huge Scream fan, so what better way than to have Scream's #1 fan on, right? But before we begin, just some schedule updates here. So the thing called life is rearing its ugly head, and long story short, I'm going to be posting every other week instead of once a week on the podcast. Just I need to get caught up in my personal life here and, a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, just a little update on that. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into the discussion. All right, and Kevin, welcome back to the podcast. So happy to have you back.
I'm so happy to be back. Thank you for having me, Amanda. How's it going?
It's going great. And,
Very good.
I want to tell you the last time you were on it was like the second most viewed episode was our
Oh,
Halloween special. So,
yes.
yeah. So
I'm
I think
very
you're a fan
happy.
favorite, Kevin.
I think I am in the fan favorite genre. Like, isn't horror
Mhm.
just where everybody just wants to? I think the people who like horror films really like talking about them. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's because we're justifying why we're okay with watching people get mutilated or if it's
Right.
because we're genuinely curious. I don't know. But
Was
it's
it
so
called
much fun.
Mortally Curious?
Yes.
Something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah, that's what it
Yes.
is.
Very good. You know what? I do think that that definitely plays into it.
Yeah.
You do wonder, like, how do people react to seeing other people die? I think one of my favorite parts of a
Mhm.
horror film actually is watching the characters who are in the same room as they see something horrific happen, like a
Mhm.
murder, and I just love those moments. I just live for those moments that the characters experience, and I just love it.
I know, and especially like when it gets so realistic too, because it's like I said, you find yourself in a situation, you wonder like, how am I going to react? And then you
Yes.
see a character react, and you either agree or disagree with the character.
Yes.
Like I'm
And
going to
I
act like that, or I'm not going to go up the stairs, and
and I really like new age films that are like kind of going in the direction of
Mhm.
making it smarter, like push yourself to do what the character would do. I think a lot of times people settle for, oh, they nobody in real life would do that, but it's going to help push the script forward. I
Right.
challenge, writers and directors, go for the thing that you would do and then really push yourself to the next level of how to defeat that. Almost like you're playing chess against yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, horror movies, yeah, they're just so, and I don't want to really use the term comforting because they're far from comforting, especially to
Right.
those that like can't handle it.
Right.
But like the fans like you and me, it takes you out of this crazy world
Yeah.
and puts you into some other realm of, I mean, yeah, it's probably just as crazy, but
Right.
like it just,
Yeah.
yeah, it gets your mind off it. It's creative. Like some of the most creative things I've seen are in horror films, and Scream is just one of these. Like the franchise is just an example of that. Like you can have, just jump scares,
Yep.
stabby stabs, and then humor thrown in too.
I think that that juxtaposition is the best um, genre juxtaposition there is. I don't think there's any two genres that marry together as well as comedy and horror. I just
Hmm.
feel like that is the ticket of the movie that I want to buy, is the movie that I'm going to laugh and scream at all within an hour and a half.
Hmm. Yeah, and like these Scream films are just so classic and they're just very unique in providing the scares to fit the horror genre. But like I said, there's also comedy in it, and overall, they're great storylines. And you can kind of say like, oh my god, there's a 5th one that just came out in January, but it's like these stories are just so fresh. They keep going in an interesting way in each movie.
Yeah, I think they do a good job of listening to the fans and growing with just real life.
Hmm.
because each one seems like the natural next step. And I would love anybody who would come to me and challenge that, because I went and I saw one when I was 15. So it came out when I was 6, but
Hmm.
I saw it when I was 15. And my barber at the time told me to watch it because I was looking for a good scary movie. And I watched it, and I remember the first time I watched it was the only time I was ever scared of a Scream movie. And it was because I was still in my early years of testing the horror genre, and it was still
Hmm.
very burdensome to me as a child. Like it definitely was very heavy on me, and it kept me up at night. But I still loved it. And I remember when I watched it, I loved it, but I was scared. And then after the first viewing of it, I realized this is just epicness to me. I just love I love that there are so many characters who live. I love that they're going to come back. I love the consistency. And I know a lot of people don't love that, but I think one of the reasons Final Destination tinkered out is because you don't have any familiar faces.
Yeah.
So I wonder with the people who say, "Oh, it's just the same thing again and again with the same people." But what if they weren't there? And I will say, I loved the new characters in this new one, and I was very happy that they were the main characters. I didn't really care that Dewey, Gale, and Sydney were quite truthfully the B characters in this film. I
Hmm.
actually thought it was a genius decision to make, because it keeps the people who are excited about the story in the story whilst developing an entirely new world, which gives us the ability to have Scream 6.
Right, and I just in my intro said I personally haven't seen Scream 5, and don't worry guys, I really don't care about spoilers. I told Kevin to just go for it with
Yes.
it. But Kevin, what was interesting, I just watched a movie with Jenna Ortega in it called The Fallout. I reviewed it 2 weeks ago on here, and I was like, oh, I really hope I see her in something else. And here she is in Scream 5. I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna have to see this because
Wow,
she was fantastic in that movie. I'm sure she kills it in Scream 5.
kills it. I mean, she is she's just this very genuine actress who is very clearly feeling the euphoria of um the experience, the killer, and he's coming after her and her sister, and the deep dark secret, and it's just so ingrained in this character and in this actress's portrayal of this character, and it was just such a pleasure to watch her. And I've never seen her in anything else, but I was absolutely sold with her performance, as well as the girl who played her sister, whom I am gonna look up her name. I don't know her name right now, actually, because
Melissa Barrera.
Melissa Barrera. She was
Hmm.
someone I had also never seen before, and I have to say, these are two of the most beautiful women I think that I have seen in film in a long time. The
Yeah.
whole time I'm like, Kevin, are you sure you're gay? Because these two, I mean, and it
Yeah.
was really a lot about their acting. They just were so um, connected. They had a great chemistry together. I felt was very sold on their relationship as
Hmm.
sisters.
Yeah. And it's just the whole thing of a Gen Z cast coming in too
Yeah,
that really just refreshes the story, I feel like.
it's
And it's not even
hilarious.
just like with Scream, it's like other franchises too that obviously the actors that we all know and love, we grew up with, are getting older like us. And
Hmm.
if you want to keep it going, you got to find a new, fresh story, fresh characters. And
Yep.
it sounds like they're doing good with it.
They are. I do find the same mistake is still being made over and over and over again. We're talking about Gen Z, and we're casting millennials. And again, I love the cast. I actually loved the entire cast. Um, and one might argue that Gen Z starts in 1995. I think actually that is the official start time. So a lot of these kids
Ooh,
are
yeah.
Gen Z, but the main are not. And I really, because as a person who makes films with um I make films with my third grade students, and I when I write the films, I make them third graders, and they look like third graders because they are third graders. And I do
Right.
wonder, like, can we have a little bit more of that um
Like
reality?
continuity in there. Yeah.
Yeah, because I would like to see what that actually looks like. Because the character who plays uh Martha Meeks's daughter, can't remember her character's name. I'm rusty. I only seen the movie once. But she, who was also in Yellow Jackets, she is our age. She's like 31. But
Oh,
she is
wow.
so convincing. Such a
Yeah.
good cast. I love her. I'm gonna pull her name up right now and tell you all. Her name is Jasmine Savoy Brown. I think I said that right. She
Hmm.
is fabulous. She's in this. She's in Yellow Jackets on Showtime. Just a great, great, awesome um, BIPOC LGBTQIAP plus actress, and it's awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I also see, and he's pretty popular for his show in 13 Reasons Why on Netflix. Dylan Mignette is in this movie too.
Yes,
He
he
plays Wes.
is. Yes. I would love to dive into some spoilers here. Is that
Yeah, go
okay?
for it. Yeah.
Well, first of
Floor is
all,
yours.
I I absolutely love his the entire scene that leads up to his murder. First of all, it's halfway through the film, which is a surprise because I would actually venture to say that he is the most famous addition in
Mhm.
terms of the high school actors. He
Oh
is the
yeah.
most well known, and it's because, like you said, Amanda, because of his show.
Yeah,
Um,
people are crazy over that show.
yeah, and
Just
so
he's like the draw.
he totally. He actually and I very much so assumed that he would be the killer or at least a main character based on that. And Scream is famous for doing the opposite, so I should have actually known better. So they kill him halfway through the film. He has a fantastic death scene. I mean, it is vicious. I loved it. Um, absolutely loved it. And before he's killed, it's this joke about he keeps opening doors and closing doors, and there's no killer behind the door. And then he basically gets naked and takes a shower. So he's kind of the girl in the shower, except it's the boy in the shower. And so all these cool things sort of happened with this character. And if I was him and I was that famous, I would have done it too, because it was just the Drew Barrymore version, I would say, of this film, where it's like this very well known person who's doing this very cheeky uh, thing. And I love that. I live for those things. So I was very happy to see him, and he did a fabulous job. So kudos to Dylan Mignetti.
Hmm. Good. You know, and then Kevin, I was just sitting here thinking before our chat here how I've seen Scream 1 and 2, but I was like, what, 14, 15, with
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of girlfriends having a slumber party. And you know, like, us girls, when you watch scary movies and you're just like, oh, ah, like, but you don't take it seriously. That was the last time I ever saw the Scream movies. But Mike and I sat down this past weekend and we watched Scream 1 through 4, and we were just hooked. We just kept throwing in the movie
Oh
after
yeah.
movie
Oh yeah.
because I really enjoyed how every character, I was like, he's the killer, she's the killer, no, he's got to be the killer, no,
Uh-huh.
and you know, we're either right or we're wrong. Majority of the time I was wrong, so
Same.
that was just like a thrill of watching these films. And then, for instance, the comedy aspect. One of my favorite, I think it was in Scream 3, one of my favorite parts is when David Arquette's character, Dewey, was like, okay, guys, don't panic. And the lights go off and they all go, ah!
Yes, Scream 3 definitely it really was, I would say, sort of a cherry on top of really
Mhm.
going in hardcore with the funniness of it. I love that you sat down and you just binged all of them. I also did that recently. What was your favorite?
My favorite is, it's got to be the first one.
Yeah.
That sets the stage. That sets the bar for the rest of them because it just keeps building and building off each one, the previous movie.
Yes. Yes. And you know, I actually kind of look at all five of them as like a singular thing, and it's like it's not
Yeah.
that I because there's because I would venture, and I think I'm gonna get a lot of hate on this, but I'm gonna say this, and I really mean it. I would venture that Scream 2 has the best opening of all five Screams. If you really sit down and you say to yourself, someone fucking thought, sorry about the F word, to someone really thought they were like, oh, let's have this person get killed in front of everybody and have everybody think
Yeah.
it's a publicity stunt. I mean, that to me could really happen. What happened to Drew
Mhm.
Barrymore? Yeah, that could happen, has happened, but a little less. I mean, I know it was shocking because it was the first of all of them, but I think if you took out the fact that that was the first one and you kind
Mhm.
of just laid all of them out and you described for a young person who is on the beginning of their horror genre journey. That was tough to say. And you said to them, "This is how this movie opens. This is how this movie opens." And you told them all five. I think the majority of people would say two is just oh so good, so good. Not
Yeah.
really scary as much as hilarious, and then all of a sudden it becomes mortifying, and I just ate it up.
Yeah, I definitely think, yeah, I agree with you. The second movie, the opening part was just like it was just so realistic.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, stuff like that happens in real life, at movie theaters and whatever. Not
it's
necessarily in that way, but you
right.
know, it sometimes like the realistic aspect of and just being home alone and like getting a phone call or something, like that's scary.
Totally. And
And it
you oh,
brings
go
you
ahead.
back into the whole like what would you do?
Totally.
And a lot of these
Absolutely.
girls, they run up the stairs. I don't care. Like, I will like dart out the front door and do like a zigzag run so whoever can't catch me, like,
You know what,
know,
Amanda? It is all about that zigzag. I'm
all
telling
about
you,
the
I have
zigzag.
thought of that so many
Hmm.
times. It's you
Yeah.
got to go zigzag, zigzag,
Uh
trick them
huh.
up. Yep,
Yep.
and don't let it be an even zigzag. Go all over the
Right.
place.
Yep.
You said something a second ago that really made me kind of think about the history of Scream and with the I'm so bad I can't remember in '99 there was a mass shooting at a school and it was one of the biggest ones that
Oh,
many
is it Columbine?
I think it is Columbine. That does sound right. And
Yeah.
but it was something equivalent, definitely to Columbine, if not Columbine. And
Hmm.
I remember when Scream 3 was in production, they pulled back on the violence
Oh, yeah, it was probably a
significantly.
later one. Yeah.
Yes, because in '99 that happened, or was it may have been
Hmm.
'98, and then Scream 3 was February 2000. So
Hmm.
they were following that status quo. And then about the theaters, nobody at that time had really been murdered in a theater, and now we know that that's not the reality. Now we know that that does happen sometimes,
Hmm.
and it changes. It really does change your opinion of the horror genre in a lot of ways, and I think
Yeah.
that's where I almost wonder. Like, should I be watching this? Should I be excited to watch this? Because this really does happen. Um,
Yeah.
but then, uh, it is a story for your enjoyment, and at the end of the
Hmm.
day you're watching it to see the heroine or hero outsmart the villain, and that's what you get to see every time with Scream, which then takes you into this so satisfied, yeah, fuck them. And at
Hmm.
the end of Scream, I just love how Gail says basically that,
Yeah.
and that I'm going to write about Dewey, not about them. And I
Hmm.
thought that is the next stage in Gail's journey.
Yeah.
And it really kind of did set her character up. I really think they finished her story. I don't think they'll bring her back. I
Okay.
really I think she's done. And I think she lived, she's happy she lived. I think if there was another Scream situation that happened, now that Dewey is dead, she wouldn't necessarily hear about it until it had already happened. And I
Hmm.
think that that's how they're going to that's how they're going to kind of in their minds, because it's a good end for her, and I don't want her to die. I would like her to rather just walk away and be alive.
I think too, like the running gag in these films is like she'll get a lethal blow to her,
Oh
but
yeah.
she'll live,
Yeah, and I thought
and
it
it
was
makes it like it's kind of funny
it is kind of funny,
because
and
it's like she gets stabbed, and you're like, oh god, Gail, and then it's like she's like, I'm okay.
yes. And I will say, with the exception of Dewey's tremendously large amount of stabs in Scream 2, um,
Hmm.
Scream 5 was the only movie where I was consistently like, okay, you should be dead. You should be dead.
Yeah.
A lot of people were surviving things that they should not have survived. Um, and I do think that that was actually kind of I think they were trying to make fun of themselves in a way. I
Right.
actually think Scream was really making fun of itself to its
Yeah.
core. And I think that real fans were cracking up the whole time, because that's exactly, they were literally roasting themselves. And I
Hmm.
loved every minute of
That's
it.
awesome. I love that too. Yeah. And I just think it's also just like so creative how, I mean, like the first movie, it sets the stage for like these are these characters. This is Sydney's story, A, B, and C. But then it's like two, three, four, and five. And Kevin, I don't know really about five too much, but how these incidents are based off the movie Stab in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
but imitating Sydney, like reenacting Sydney's life. It's just so weird how it's like, and it's creative how they just go off this movie, this fictional movie, in this fictional movie, if that makes sense. Like Scream has a stab movie in it,
Yes. And didn't it
and
trip
that's
you
what the
out?
killers are based off of. Is like
Yeah.
them just reenacting, but then it's like it all led back to Billy, especially the
Yes.
second one. I did not see the mother coming.
That was such, you know what though? I have to say something. Scream 2 would have been a stronger film if Sydney would have had interactions with Billy's mother prior to the end scene. And and I know everybody's response to that is, Kevin, she immediately recognized her.
Hmm.
Yes, I know she did. And I don't think she should have. I think she should have seen her in quick passing, had a quick conversation, maybe even a scene where she's not interested because it's a bunch of reporters and she's ignoring them because she hates the reporters. I
Hmm.
really would have liked, because that would have really, I think, leveled Scream 2 up to the, and Miss Loomis is one of my absolute favorite of the in fact, my top 3 favorite killers are the all 3 females.
Hmm.
I would pick any 3 of them any day, and I know everybody is killing me right now because I know a lot of people are on the fence with Mikey Madison, but I'm telling you, you watch out for Mikey Madison. She is coming for Hollywood. I see her. She is fierce, and she maybe does a little bit too much cocaine, or maybe that's just
Yeah.
the character she's cast as. I'm not
Hmm.
sure, but she is a treat. I mean, truly a treat. And I do want to talk about her more, but there was, what were you saying a second ago? What were we kind of trailing off from?
Oh, just like how the stories and the reason, like the motive in these movies, like Scream 2, 3, and 4, it's based off the stab films in the Scream
Oh
movies,
yeah.
but also reenacting, not reenacting, but like there's like a heavy message in these movies that it's the media's fault.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that can apply to this today. I mean,
Oh,
so
100%. I
it's like
mean,
you
yeah.
go into these films and you're just like, okay, who's going to, be the killer now
And you almost
because
wonder if
of
it's going
this
to be
movie?
Gail. Yeah, you almost wonder, is it going to
Right,
be Gail because is she like so hungry for the next story?
right.
But that would have been
But
like the lazy answer, of course.
yeah, and I found it very interesting in 3 when it was like amongst the actors.
Yes. So there's a couple
Like
things.
that was crazy. Like I think 3 might be my favorite one out of all of them, just because I like the direction it went in, and I like the balance between the horror and the comedy.
I love that you love that.
Mhm.
It is my least favorite, and I respect that it's your most favorite. It's my least favorite only because there are for me there are a lot of I hate that Roman faked his death. I thought that that was a cop out for the film, because it made it
Yeah.
virtually impossible to guess. I hated that there was only one killer. I did like his motive and I did
Mhm.
like the through line. I absolutely loved the actors. I loved that they were
Yes.
getting killed in order, that they were going to die in the script. Two things with that. The before I said, didn't it trip you out? Didn't it trip you out when Judy Jurgenstern is the name of the actress who changed her name to Jennifer, who's playing Gail? I mean, it was like
Yeah.
so many things happening, and it was kind of funny. It was like, oh my god, this actress, she's and I love Parker Posey. Oh my god, the
Mm.
cast in 3 was just so phenomenal. Um but so I wanted to tell you about the trippy thing with that, and I wanted to tell you about my Roman opinions with that,
Mhm.
because Roman was a killer. There was one other thing, but while I'm trying to remember that one other thing, the stab movies within the movies, I found it interesting that Stab 7 was the movie that was the most recent in Scream 4. And then 11 years pass, and we have Scream 5, and now they're only referencing Stab 8.
Mhm.
So, and then they made a comment about how Sydney's character was in all of them, but then there was a comment made in 4 how she wasn't allowed to be in all, like her character, she was trying to sue them for using her character and her likeness. So it was, to me, a little confusing. I would have liked it to have been Stab, 13.
Mhm.
And I thought it was hilarious though that
Mhm.
Stab 8, I mean, the motive is that Stab 8 sucks and we need to reinvigorate this series.
Yeah.
Love that as the
Mhm.
motive. I mean, the thing is, it's like, what do you audiences want? Is it you want some convoluted macaque bullshit? No, what you
Mhm.
want is the reality. And the reality is that there are crazy people who are pissed off about this remake and they want to make a better one.
Mhm.
And I love that.
Yeah. It's genius. Like, and just going back again, it's like it's almost like the directors and writers are like, we can't just keep retelling the story. And I just love the creativity that goes behind, like, yeah, it's the stab movies that are being impactful with the killings and stuff, but the motives are just so different from each other.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's
And
great.
I really do like too that it always touches on, but you are a psycho though. You are
Mhm.
crazy. Like, and
Yeah.
you're crazy. And it's like, yeah, and I love that.
Mhm.
I recently read an article about the 55 death scenes in Scream, and in order from most impactful to least impactful. And for the life of me, I can't remember the one that they liked the most. I think it was Drew Barrymore. And I
That one
think,
was probably one of the worst ones. Yeah.
yeah, it was vicious. I
That
actually
one and
think
the friend in Scream 4 in
the
her bedroom.
oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Mhm.
They really perfected the knife through the hand for Scream 5 though. They
Okay.
really, because I didn't I know they tried to make it look good for Scream 4, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, you got that at the wrong angle, Wes. But this one they got at the right angle, and I was very happy,
Mhm.
because that's disgusting and I wanted to see kind of more of that. um I love the visually disturbing. I loved Dewey's death. um I did go into it wanting to see him live. I really wanted them all to live again. I just,
Mhm.
why not? Keep them alive. I mean, look at James Bond. He's still alive, and there's 26 movies, and you don't bat an
Right.
eyelash about that. So what do we? Come on. And
Right.
Jamie Lee, she's about to go
Oh
into
yeah.
The fourth one, even though she technically wasn't even at risk in Halloween Kills, which was sort of a cop out, but we can talk about that later. So yeah, no, I think that what took my attention though was the killer's death scenes, and by
Mhm.
far um, Jill's death scene, as well as Amber's death scene, is just the best. Um, my favorite thing in the entire Scream series, my favorite, is when Jill just beats the shit out of herself. I just
Yeah.
was, I think everybody was kind of watching it like, oh, but I think if you actually sit down for a second, take a breath,
Hmm.
and look at what you're watching, she has lost her mind. And this is very not normal behavior. I mean,
Hmm.
this is beyond. And I loved it. And the
Yeah.
cherry on top, throwing herself on top of the table. I mean, I could just watch that scene
Oh yeah.
over. And in those heels, listen, I
Yeah.
know they had to
Yeah.
because she's short. I know they
Oh
had
my
to. And Wes said,
god.
I gotta put you in these because it's gotta be realistic that you were the killer.
Hmm.
And it's kind of funny, and I love it. I love all of that. I
Yeah,
love it all.
definitely. Scream 4 was definitely, I felt like, just like different out of the three that we did watch, just because you could see the advance in technology and
Yes.
like blocking and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, having Jill as the killer in that film, that was a great, just like, surprise to the audience, I felt. But like you said, having her going like batshit crazy, it's like, okay, she did her thing, what's going to happen now? And she just starts beating herself up. But the hospital scene, that was crazy with her.
So I have two things. I'll go to the hospital second, but first, I have to once again lovingly disagree with you. I knew she was the killer from the second this movie started. I was like, it's her. It's
I thought it was the
like,
boyfriend the whole time.
you know what? It was too soon. I
Yeah.
felt like the boyfriend was just the killer in part one, and they referenced it in part two. And by the way, I thought part five was too soon.
Oh, okay.
Also, to have the
Me
boyfriend be the killer. And then when it
yeah.
happened, I thought, well, that's the best ever because we all thought it was a little too soon. And it is
Right.
the killer. But
Oh wow.
Jill
Yeah.
for me was the most out of the entire series. And it's not that it's a bad thing,
Mhm.
because it's not a bad thing. But in the entire series, she to me was the most obvious. Um, Also, her absence in the film was very
Yeah.
apparent. I don't think there were enough new characters in part four, and I think it made
Yeah.
for a little bit of an obviousness. I never guessed Roman. I did not guess Mickey. I didn't guess Mrs. Loomis. I didn't guess Billy. I didn't guess Stu. I didn't guess any of them. And I did not guess Richie or Amber this time around. Definitely did not guess
Mhm.
either of them. And I can say that very proud. Like, I would tell you if I,
And and that's
yeah.
what's so great though, is that you get surprised. And it's always fun when you're not right, because let's be honest here, if you guess the whole movie and it turns out that way, you're just kind of like, okay, that was very predictable.
Yeah,
But it's not the case with these films
right.
at
But
all.
but what I dislike about these films, um, which is actually what I like about the Halloween films, is I dislike the hospital scenes in Scream, and I like them in
Mhm.
Halloween. They're very unrealistic in Scream, and in Scream 4, it was not necessarily a choice. It was to make the story smooth, I think. I think in Scream 4, you have a hospital scene, you got to end it, and this twist at the end here. And very unrealistic with nobody around. And Gail makes a comment, and doesn't anybody work in this hospital or whatever? And
Mhm.
that was good. But it was just, for lack of a better phrase, too little too late. Like, it was like,
Yeah.
well, you know? But in Scream 5, they were so blatant with having nobody in the hospital for such a long period of time, as it is one of the main sets in Scream 5, um, that it worked a little bit better for me because the preposterousness was just preposterous. And it was like you either say to yourself, preposterous and let's watch the movie, or you say I can't get into this and stop watch the movie, like
Hmm.
stop watching it, like, you either have to or not. And um a- and i i have to say Scream 5, God, 1, 2, 4, 5, they're all very close, very close. I like
Hmm.
different ones on different days. And then there
Yeah.
are days, there is the leap year where I'm like, Scream 3 today. It's time for Scream 3. But
Right.
that is, that one was rushed.
Each one has just its unique pull
It
that
does. It does.
leaves a impression on you.
Yeah, because you really get the feel for Hollywood in Scream 3, which is just such a
Hmm.
fun thing to kind of feel. And the film school is so cool in Scream 2. It's nice to get the college vibes.
I just love
Um,
too in all these movies too. Like you'll just be watching the film, you're already expecting Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette to come back, But then it's like these random celebrities just pop up, like Kristen Bell, Hayden Panettiere, just
yeah,
we were just like screaming out names. We were like, "Hey, look, it's that guy from that movie."
I think I might have said this on the last podcast, and I hate repeating myself, but just in case I didn't mention it, I'll mention it quickly.
Yeah, no worries.
I teach third grade, and I teach my kids how to open up a story because they write stories all the time. And I'm a terrible teacher, so of course I said, the movie Scream is about, this crazy person, and in the first scene there's this horrible thing that happens to the first person who gets attacked, and it makes you want to keep watching, and you're just so
Hmm.
captivated. And when you open up a story, that's what you want to do. And these kids, just like I was, when you're a kid, you look at horror movie posters and you listen to scary stories, and you're just captivated by
Hmm.
that, and you're like wanting to tiptoe closer to it, and you're like, can I handle this, can I handle this?
Hmm.
And a lot of adults are against, what I do, which is, make them sort of aware of this genre.
Hmm.
And none of my parents are mad about it. They seem to like that I talk to them about it. But the punchline of the story is that one of my kids says, hey, wait a minute, my aunt's in that movie. And I was
Oh,
like,
yay.
stop. I was like, stop. I was like, you don't understand how exciting that is for me.
Yeah.
And so it was really a great conversation that he and I got to have, and that the whole
Wow.
class got
That's
to
amazing.
experience. Yeah, it was very cool. It was very
But
cool.
Kevin, I do have to disagree though.
Tell me what.
Those
I love it.
No, those kids are lucky to have you as a teacher.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
You know what? We really do film studies. We're
Hmm.
watching Even Stevens. We're watching all that. We're watching That's So Raven. Black History
Uh,
Month.
you have to watch Boy Meets World,
Oh,
the
yes.
killer episode. That is my favorite episode.
Now I am waiting to show them that one. That one is
Yes.
so classic. I have to
Halloween.
say, you did you watch That's So Raven growing up?
Oh yeah. I
Do you
still watch it sometimes.
Same. Do you remember the episode where the lady, they go to apply for the job at the mall, the
Hmm.
shopping mall, and the lady straight up says, "I don't hire black people."
I don't remember that.
So it was one of the Black History Month episodes, and Raven
Yeah.
and Chelsea, they go and they're like, okay, we're gonna apply for this job, and Chelsea does a terrible job, and Raven
Hmm.
does a great job. And so then they're in the hallway like the next day, and the boss calls Chelsea, and she's like, you got the job, and great job. And, oh, Raven, sorry you didn't get the job. And so I paused it and I asked my students, I said, how does that make you feel? And they were
Hmm.
like, well, like, the boss is going to be really surprised when she finds out she called the wrong person
Hmm.
because Raven was better. And I
Yeah.
said, "Oh," I said, "You don't get it yet." And pressed play, and then they saw the vision where the white, shop lady says that,
Mhm.
and they were gobsmacked, and they got to laugh with Raven as she got to do her funny stuff, and they got to
Mhm.
learn, as
That's
Raven dealt with, prejudice and discrimination, and
that's fantastic.
it was great, and, we're filming our
Yeah.
own sitcom, and so I was like, "We need
Mhm.
to teach and make people laugh, so we could do it all in one."
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome, Kevin. Great
it's a
job
lot
for,
of fun.
just doing that and taking upon yourself to just teach kids, right from the get-go. Because I didn't learn any of this stuff really until I was in college.
Me
Maybe a little
either.
bit in high school, but like, yeah, my professors didn't hold back in college. So like that's where I
Well,
learned the bulk of my stuff. But it's like
yes. Well, and
this
isn't
day
that
and age
sad?
anymore, yeah. This day and
Like
age anymore, like kids grow up so fast. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, 10-year-olds look like 18-year-olds sometimes. It's crazy.
I look like I'm 50 right now because I haven't slept well.
I feel like I'm 50 right now.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, I'll never forget when I was in college. It was my freshman year, or no, actually, it was my sophomore year, and I made my first film. And they said, "Okay, let's show our films, and then we're going to critique each other."
Mhm.
I was like, this is cruel and unusual punishment. I didn't agree to this. And it was brutal to listen to
Mhm,
the
I'm
honest
sure.
opinions. Oh my God. But,
Yeah.
a little bit of that a little early on is good. And a little knowledge a little early on is good. And keeping
Mhm.
kids kids is also good.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we're talking about Scream, not third grade children.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, the horror movies, like, I remember when I saw, like, Darkness Falls, Jeepers Creepers. Jeepers Creepers scared the
Oh my
shit out of me
God.
when I was, because once again, a girl birthday party, us girls were like, let's watch Jeepers Creepers, ha ha ha.
That's so
And,
funny.
we're screaming, we're scared shitless, especially towards the end. We turn on Princess Diaries afterwards because we're terrified to go to sleep. But those are memories created, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And you need that
It's,
cleanser. And
yeah,
perfect segue.
yeah,
Martha
exactly.
Meeks coming back for Scream 5. Oh my God. Did you know that that happens?
No.
So in Scream 3, we get to meet Martha Meeks. And when I found out that, because of course I was IMDb, I don't read spoilers, but I definitely like to know who's in the film and what's a little bit. And when I read that there was going to be the niece and nephew of Randy in Scream 5, I said to myself, well, I hope that they show Martha, and they did. And I was very, it was literally
Oh.
shorter than her cameo in 3, but
Mhm.
it was just such a solidifying, it solidified the world. Somebody did say
I
something that I
screamed when no pun
oh
intended, but I screamed when she
yeah.
came, when she came on the screen because I was just so happy. I was like,
Mhm.
"It's Lily Moscovitz!"
Yes, yes, I know, I love her, I love
I
her.
love her too. Shut up and listen.
Yes. And somebody said to me, though, that kind of transitions us into this. Somebody said, Scream 5 feels the least Woodsboro-y of all the Woodsboros.
Mm,
I agree.
really?
There was something less Woodsboro-y about it. It definitely, well, if truth be told, all three Woodsboros were filmed in different states. Woodsboro
Okay.
in part one was California,
Uh huh.
Woodsboro in part four was Michigan, and Woodsboro in part five, I can't remember if it was North or South Carolina.
Oh, I did not
Um,
know that. That's
yeah,
good to know.
so truthfully, there is no one Woodsboro. Um, I don't know even if they filmed at the same. I think they did film at the same house in 1 and
Okay.
5, but the majority of the Woodsboro scenes were shot in North or South Carolina. So, but there was a little bit of a lacking of atmosphere in some ways, but that
Mhm.
also maybe is because I've only seen it once, and as I watch things I catch nuances and they become deeper, and they,
Mhm.
so that might happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting though.
Mhm.
And then I have to ask: Does Patrick Dempsey come back? I thought I saw.
He does not come back, but he's
Oh no.
referenced, and he is,
Oh.
in fact, Sydney's husband.
That's what I thought.
And
I saw it coming. I thought for sure that we'd see them together in the fourth movie.
and it was, I have to say, I have a prediction. This is a pre-spoiler, so I don't know if anybody has heard this yet from anybody else. But in my opinion, I don't know if Sydney does have children, and I don't know that she is married to Mark. And I do
Oh.
wonder if she is somehow involved in what happened in Scream 5 still.
Oh. Well, that's interesting.
I am. I'm wondering because we did not see the baby. We saw her running with a baby, whatever the hell you call it, stroller. I don't have children, never will, so I don't need to know
Mm-hmm.
words like stroller. Um, um, but it did make me wonder. And Dewey and Gail don't live near her, and they don't really have a relationship outside of their survival stories together. So it's not that they would come visit. Um, so I do wonder about those things. But as of now, she is married to him, and as of now, they have a few children together.
Interesting.
Yes. Um, yeah. So that was that. Um, Jack Quaid.
Okay.
Uh, listen, I'm 32, buddy, and you can't hide it anymore, So I
Ah!
was really not having that. I was like, you are my age. You are not even like, I don't even care if they're saying you're in college. You were not born in 1998. You were not born in
Oh
1997.
gosh.
You were
Yeah.
born in, yeah, I just, it's not working to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but acting prowess, fantastic. Character, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did not, if for one, and it's funny, I should have suspected him, and I really didn't. I should have, but I didn't suspect him, and I did not suspect Amber. Um, Amber.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Amber now because it's time.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, did you have the pleasure of seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. No, I don't think I have.
That is with Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. It's the latest Quentin Tarantino film. And I saw that film and I loved it. And, a couple years went by. And now I went and I saw Scream. And I watched the whole movie. And I'm watching this actress, and I've never seen her before in my life. And I'm not even thinking about it. And I'm not thinking about any of it. And then the end scene comes, and she's doused with hand sanitizer, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh man.
Hilarious because it's the only COVID reference in the, and
Yep.
they ignore it. Which by the way, fuck anyone, sorry, who thinks that they should have referenced it, because in 20 years most of society will pretty much ignore and or forget about COVID, and it's
Oh
nice to
yeah.
have Scream where we can just not need to deal with it. But
Right.
it's cute to have the hand sanitizer moment. So I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's cool. And so anyway, she's doused with hand sanitizer, and she's, lit up, like full on lit up.
Oh man.
And it was so satisfying because she fully, I mean, she's vicious. She admits to killing Dewey. She tells Gail to her face. She's like, "Yeah, he died like a pussy." And
Oh man.
I clenched my teeth, clutched my pearls, and put my fist straight up to my mouth. I was so pissed off. And then when Sydney handed her the gun to just blow up the oven to make her explode, I was like, would you like the honors, Gail? I was in the theater. I swear to God, it was and I didn't mean to, because I hate to be that person, but I was like,
Yeah.
fuck yes, she does. And it
Oh
was like,
man.
but nobody laughed because we were all on the edge of our seats and we were in the moment. It was such a moment. And then I said, why am I having flashbacks to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Because this actress played the killer at the end of that film too. And
Really?
she was lit on fire in that
Oh,
film
wow.
too. And it was off-putting that this actress did the same thing. It really was off-putting for me.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was supposed to be another kind of inside joke. I assume that they will definitely say it was.
Yeah, it could have been.
But it didn't
Easter eggs.
feel. Yeah, it didn't feel. I love that they casted her though, but it felt
Mhm.
like they kind of ripped it. It felt more like a steal than an homage or a
Mhm.
roast, that moment. But I liked it, and the fact that I thought of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood before I read anything, any literature about that connection, because there is literature on it now that you could read, and
Mhm.
that because people have
Yeah.
noticed it. But I noticed it before I read anything, which makes me realize that it was too much. There was something. It just wasn't right. But
Mhm.
oh, watch out for that Mikey Madison. She's gonna be
You're selling me
famous.
on this. Like, I'm
I
here for it, and I haven't
love
even seen the
her.
film yet.
Oh my god, you're gonna it doesn't
I
even
can't wait. We're
matter.
gonna, yeah, we're gonna watch it together. I
You're
mean,
gonna
once it
love Yeah, I
streams.
wanna watch it with you. I think we're gonna
Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh man.
Absolutely. Marley Shelton's in it. You know that.
Mhm.
Loved it. Love her. I'm glad she came back.
Yeah. I
We all
see a
know.
lot of like, and I know I mentioned the term Easter eggs. Were
Yes.
there any of that like
Mm,
nodding back to like past characters or past storylines?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think well, first of all, Gail, you mentioned before how she gets brutally killed,
Mhm.
beat up. She was shot in the same place as she was shot in Scream 2. That was an Easter egg.
Mhm.
And what else? As far I would go as close as to say Sydney was wearing the same jacket almost that she wore in Scream 2.
She wears like
So
the neutral colors, like the camo
yes,
and the
yes,
tan.
and she's got the brown leather jackets going on at the end of Scream 2 and
Yeah.
at the end of Scream 5.
Yeah.
So that was to me a little bit of an insight. And if I watched it again, I bet you I could find 200 more. But I think the elephant in the room is Billy is back,
Okay. Yeah.
and I think a lot of people are unclear of what that's supposed to represent. This is a girl who's taking medication and seeing her dead father in visions. Now, they should have, what they should have done? This would have been just brilliant. They should have casted David Schwimmer to do these
Oh.
scenes because that would have been her actual vision of her father.
Yeah.
That would because he played her. Wait, no, I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
I was gonna
Not
say,
David.
yeah.
Um.
I knew what you were talking about, but the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
actor's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
name
yeah. You
wasn't
know
with me. Yeah.
what's his name? It's the brother. They're the brothers Owen and
Wilson?
Wilson.
Yeah.
Except it's not Owen Wilson. It's the other one, whom I love very
Mhm.
much.
Oh yeah.
And I wish I remembered his name right now. You're looking it up.
Is it a brother of
Yeah,
his?
it's his
Luke or
brother.
Andrew?
Luke Wilson. I think it's Luke Wilson. That sounds
Mhm.
right. So Luke Wilson played Billy Loomis um in Scream 1, and it is Luke
Mhm.
Wilson. And had they actually casted him, it would have made more sense because
Yeah.
she wouldn't have seen. So actually, what took me out of it was that she saw him in his white t-shirt, in the same blood that he was in from Scream. She wouldn't have seen that because
Mhm.
she, in my opinion, is not seeing a ghost. She's schizophrenic, and she's not having visions of her father. That's what's manifesting as the second personality in her brain, in my opinion, and
Mhm.
that's why she's taking
Yeah.
medication. And so it would have made more sense for her to see what she saw on the film because she said she saw that movie. So everything makes sense except for. And you know what? Had they done Luke Wilson instead, I think people would have been pissed that they didn't do Skeet Ulrich.
Mhm.
And maybe that's why they went with Skeet Ulrich. But I think it would have made more sense if they went with Luke Wilson.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, I mean, keep it consistent at least.
Well, because she's a baby and she doesn't know what her father looks like. She never knew what her father was murdered while she was still in her mom's stomach. So, um, you know, it
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense that she would see him so clearly as Sydney saw him on the night he tried to kill her.
Hmm. Well, we're almost out of time, but so Kevin, have you seen the Scream series on Netflix by any chance?
All 3 seasons,
Oh, you
of
have?
course. Oh my God,
Okay, I have it
yes.
on my watch list. Are they worth it?
The first two are fantastic. It got a little convoluted towards the end of the second season, but I just absolutely loved both of the first 2 seasons, especially the first one. The third one, in an attempt to go back to the roots, I think kind of screwed up some stuff. And I
Mm,
did not
okay.
have as much fun watching season three.
Hmm.
Um, but the first two, I would watch all of them because it's just great to see everything.
Hmm.
If you start it, I do warn you, you will not be able to stop.
Oh yeah, just like the movies.
Yep, absolutely. Except it's
Yep.
longer, which is wonderful. I love
Right.
that.
Right.
I love
Well, that's
that.
really good to know.
Yes.
Because yeah, it's definitely on my watch list. It and does it tie into anything with Scream 5 at all, or?
You know what? It has been a while since I have watched it, but if memory serves me correctly, Scream 1, season 1 and season 2 have nothing to do with it. And
Okay.
3, I don't think it does. Um, I can't even remember what happens in this third season. I remember Kiki Palmer is in it, and I remember they were able to get the rights to use the original mask,
Hmm.
but it was sort of it just was hard to watch, and I don't really remember it.
Hmm.
I don't even remember who the killer was, and that is insane because you always remember who the killer is.
Yeah.
I do remember who the killers were in season 1 and 2, though. So I would say watch those. You'll love it. It's great. I
Okay.
love
Yeah.
that story.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for coming back on. It was fun.
I can't wait to come again, and I'm putting that
Oh
in
yeah.
the ethos atmosphere, whatever you want to say, because
Oh yeah. Of
I
course, you're part of the fam. You're part of the Saturday Morning Serial
yes.
fam. We have a
Yeah.
fam going on,
I
and you're
love
in
that. I love
it.
that. Thank you for hosting and having this show, Amanda. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a great week, and I will talk to you next time.